So here we go again. Number 3. Folks, this bit I'm going to go over now is so important. I think it's more important than any of the other stuff that we've talked about in this series of 3 videos, with just some things for folks that have already been trained, that are already out there doing the deal, where we're talking about basics. And when we first got started, it was $1,500 and $100 a month. Write a check for $750 or I'm walking out that door. You don't have $750 for 17 years? I'll see you in 17 years. Guess what? The script has changed. Now, what I want you to focus on is that when you're actually making a sale, there are 2 separate parts to making the sale. The first part is your customer saying that they want the mobile app, them agreeing to buy the mobile app. That is number 1. Number 2, the payment details. And as far as I'm concerned, those 2 things are completely unrelated. Let me give you an example. We just sold an app a couple months ago to a real estate agent, and the lady said that what she wanted to do is pay for the entire thing when she closed on her next house. So do you know what we did? We published the app. We did the back office training. We got her getting her people to start downloading the app. 6 weeks later, when she closed on her first house, or not her first house, but her next house, she got her money. And you know what happened? All of a sudden, some other bills came up. So, had we waited until she closed on the house, she would not have been able to pull the trigger. Instead, we got a check out of her for $1,200. Now, her deal was a total of $1,750 for the year. And because for individuals, it was something right around $1,750. Numbers aren't 100% important there, but we got $1,200 out of her, 6 weeks later when she closed on her house. And then it was 4 weeks after that she closed on her next house, and we were able to go ahead and get that second check. Had we waited, I guarantee you we would have come back, talked about, okay, let's do it. And she would have said, yeah, I was thinking about doing it and I really wanted to do it, but this came up and that came up, other stresses and strains. So all of a sudden now I can no longer move forward. And it would have been, Instead, we've got the sale because once she got her money, she gave us what she could. The commitment was already there, and then we got the balance when she was able to pay it. So, we're not talking about going out and finding someone that has a lemonade stand that's here today and gone tomorrow, but someone that is part of the community, an established business that's not going anywhere. Listen, you sign on the dotted line. We are going to go ahead and make that app, get it published, and we are going to move forward as if everything is fine and you've already paid for everything, and then let's go ahead and get your payment details set up later. Now, this all happened, and we've had several of those that we've done that with. In fact, we've got 3 different schools, 2 elementary schools and a middle school. We've got a Parks and Recreation department, and we have another city, like the city of whatever, so that's 5, and then we had another one, and whatever type of business it was escapes me now. But in each of those instances, it was the same thing where they were talking about budgetary restraints and not being able to do anything until August 1st when their budget, is available again, when they get their money that they can spend again. And in each one of those situations, we just did a separation of church and state. Okay, do you guys want the app? Yes. Are you going to promote the app? Yes. Awesome. Then let's go ahead and get all of the questions answered that we need to get answered on the app. Now that that's done, how are you going to pay for it? Okay, well, this is our situation, blah, blah, blah. Now, that's not the exact technique of how we're going to do it. But when you're in there and you're literally doing your negotiation, trying to figure out what they can afford and what they can't afford, just separate the 2 and get that app complete. Get it published. Get the decision made and be done with it. That way you can move on, go out and do other things. And we've got plenty of people that are stroking a check right up front. Here's your $750. Here's your $500. Here's your $300 down payment. We've got plenty of customers that are paying for the year. And you know what's neat? In every other business that I've ever been in, we would have had to give people an incentive, a discount to prepay for the year. We haven't had to do that with what we're doing here. We've just got some businesses where it's easier for them to do business that way. So great, you want to just write a check for the year? Write a check for the year. We've got customers that write a check, customers that use a credit card. I've got one sales rep, and I would say that about 85% of what he's selling, the people are prepaying for the entire year. No discount. And so what he does is when he's in there talking to the people, he'll say to them, listen, the last 3 customers that I had, what they did is they just went ahead and wrote a check for the year. Actually, 2 of them wrote a check for the year, and 1 of them used a credit card for the year. How do you guys want to do it? And, well, if everybody's doing it that way, then great. What we'll do is we'll put half down today, and we'll put half down a month from now. Great, let's do it. He's got a couple of them where they've paid for the entire year over the course of 4 payments on the same date 4 months in a row. Awesome, let's do it. But literally 85% are paying for the entire year. So don't get all hung up on necessarily them doing a monthly payment when it's just as simple for many of these people to go ahead and pay for the whole thing for the year. Now, I'm going to come back to breaking this thing up into payments, and that's going to be my last story to end this, Magilla. But in the meantime, let me just really quickly talk about tie downs. One of the things that you want to be doing throughout your presentation is you want to be tying your customer down. So when you talk to them about the loyalty card, buy 10 cups of coffee, get 1 free, the fact that businesses worldwide do things like that, and it increases customer engagement with their business by this percentage, that sort of thing should be in your pitch book. And once you go through that point, say to your customer, can you see how having a loyalty card inside of your app could be a great tool for your business? Can you see how that can help you to make your customers more loyal? Can you see why Starbucks invested $1 million in their mobile app? Can you see how this tool can improve communication with your customers? Can you see how incorporating a mobile app into your current marketing can do wonders for helping you to bring more customers in? Can you see how the sharing tools that are built into the app can help your customers to spread the word about your business? Your customer's saying, yes, I get it. Yes, I can see this. Yes, I can see that. All of that sort of stuff is getting your customer to agree. And if they agree with you 5, 10, 15 times throughout your presentation, when you get down to the end, you can't assume the sale. Pull out your paperwork and start filling it out. Great, I need a check made out to Next Wave Designs for X number of dollars, unless you want to go ahead and just pay for the whole thing for the year. And that's literally something that you want to be doing on every single sales presentation. If your customer does not agree with you as you're going through that stuff, and they don't understand why Starbucks invested the money, they don't see how you can use this as a communication tool, they don't see how incorporating a mobile app into your current marketing can help to build the business. If that's the case, you've got someone that either you're not getting through to or they are not interested. So don't be afraid to tie them down as you're going through the presentation. It's going to make things a lot easier when all is said and done, and it's time to go ahead and ask for the money. So tie downs are huge. Again, basic sales 101, but certainly something that not everybody is doing on every single appointment. Okay, I want to go ahead and end this 3-part series on going over the basics by telling you a story, the story that actually made us understand this particular statement that's on the screen. The concept that in selling the mobile app that there's 2 separate parts, the agreement to buy and the payment details. Okay, so I had a sales rep who had an appointment with a restaurant that's on the water. That restaurant has 4 locations. Actually, it's not 4 locations, but the ownership group owns 4 separate restaurants. 3 of them are on the water. 1 of them is just off of the water. Translation, these places aren't going anywhere. So the sales rep had a meeting with the lady who was in charge of all of their marketing and all of their advertising. And he's going through the presentation with this restaurant. And the customer then says to him, hey, this all looks great. We're super interested. Get back with me in 6 weeks. So the sales rep packed up his stuff, left. He gave me a call. I said, hey, I made you 2 demos for those 4, for that 4 restaurant group. How did your appointment go? What did they say? And he said, well, they said to give me a call back in 6 weeks. I said, okay. And I said, well, what happens in 6 weeks? He said, well, that's when they have their money again, their budget, to be able to do their advertising. I said, okay, so in 6 weeks, they're going to start writing a bunch of checks to do the advertising for the 4 restaurants. Awesome. I said, let me ask you this. When you go back and see them in 6 weeks, how many apps are they buying? Because it is 4 different restaurants. Are we getting them 1 app, 2 app, 3 app, or 4 apps? He said, I don't know. I said, huh. I said, okay, well, let me ask you this. It's 1 price if we're doing food ordering and 1 price if we're not doing food ordering. Are we doing food ordering for 1, 2, 3, 4, or 0 of those restaurants? He said, I don't know. I said, huh. I said, so basically what you're telling me is, she said, come back and see me in 6 weeks, and you flew out the door. And he said, well, blah, 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 blah. I said, let me tell you what I would have done. I would have said to the lady, she says to me, oh, this sounds great. Come back and see me in 6 weeks. The first thing I would do is I would take something that I had and close it. If I had my laptop, I'd close it. If I had my iPad, I'd turn it off. If I had my pitch book, I would close it. If I had a notebook, I would close it. I would do that 1 physical movement. In that moment, her spidey senses start tingling, and she concludes that I just bought her sales story. Because let's face it, in every sales appointment, a sale is made. Either your customer buys what you have to sell, or you buy what your customer has to sell. And I said, what I would say is, oh, that sounds great. I'd close my notebook and I'd say, hey, let me ask you, what happens in 6 weeks? Oh, well, in 6 weeks, that's when we get all of our money to do our advertising again. That's when our budget year begins again. Awesome. So what's going to happen then? Oh, well, we're going to start spending money on these 8 different types of advertising that we do. And I would say, hey, that's fantastic. Let me tell you what. Let me ask you this. If I could set this thing up where you wrote me a check for $500 today, and we went ahead, published all 4 apps, got everything done, this way you can start marketing these apps today. This way, when 6 weeks from now comes and you go to do all of that advertising, in that advertising, you can supercharge your advertising by promoting your 4 mobile apps. Doesn't that make sense? Because let's face it, it's going to take 1 to 3 weeks for us to build the app. It's no. It's going to take 5 to 15 days for us to build the app. It's going to take 1 to 3 weeks to get the app published by Apple. That means another 1 to 3 weeks for us to be able to get your QR code for you to include in your advertising, to put it on your social media, to put it in your website. So that means worst case scenario, it's going to take us a month just to get everything set up. Wouldn't it make a lot more sense that instead of coming back to see you in 6 weeks, we took advantage of the fact that we're together now, and then in 6 weeks, when it's time to spend money on your advertising, you're no longer doing the dull, boring, inefficient advertising, but now you're able to supercharge your advertising by including your mobile app message inside of your advertising. Wouldn't that make a heck of a lot more sense? Of course it would. And of course, when my sales rep went to go call the lady back, the lady didn't answer the phone, wouldn't take his calls, and it was at that moment in time that we changed our approach, and this is how we do things now.